Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast Live Stream Edition. I'm your host, Stephen Degishi, and with my co-host from the Awful Announcing, it is the associate editor of the sports blog, Ken Fang, with us tonight, as always. And Ken, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you? And can you believe it? We're already in week 2 for the NFL. Just starting tonight, we got Miami and Buffalo on Amazon, and we're also going to talk about week 1 and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about the week 1 of the NFL. I'll be talking primarily about my Bears. Ken is going to be talking about his team, the Cleveland Browns.
Terrible.
And but we're going to kind of put that in a little bit of a back burner to let it simmer a little bit. But we're going to begin with the story that Ken and I have been really focusing for quite some time. The US Soccer, after a disastrous summer in which they were eliminated from Copa America, which led to the dismissal, a final dismissal of its embattled and incompetent head coach, Greg Berhalter. They have interviewed many people, and thank God they finally hired Mauricio Pochettino, who was available. He was actually coaching your favorite team, Ken, Chelsea. Mm-hmm. But he was unceremoniously let go after one season, which I think is a terrible mistake. And he was available. And the US Soceer Federation and Pochettino came to an agreement for a while ago, maybe about a month ago. But then we keep hearing about, obviously, the money that Chelsea owes to Pochettino that had to be resolved, and it wasn't resolved at the time. And we kept hearing that, from well-known journalists and even some unknown bloggers kept saying that, he is very close to signing a contract and so forth. And it really never happened. And we started to get a little bit worried about maybe Pochettino just wasn't really all that interested, or maybe he was using the U.S. soccer job to, maybe drum up interest from other Premier League teams and so forth, especially, Manchester United, which is struggling out of the gate in their Premier League season. But fortunately, the U.S. has finally got Pochettino on the dotted line, and it is signed, and with the help of a couple of billionaires. Thankfully, I think the issue over the money between Pochettino and Chelsea have been finally resolved, and Mauricio Pochettino now is officially the U.S. men's soccer coach. And Ken, I got to tell you, it could not have come at a better time, and there are a lot of issues surrounding the U.S. soccer, not just Copa, but even with their recent international break showing of a poor performance. Over the last week, Saturday against Canada, and then Tuesday against New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the United States lost to Canada 1-0 in an international.
No, it was 2-1. It was 2-1.
2-1. Yeah, they lost though, and really a very bad effort, to be honest with you. And really, again, Jesse March, the Canadian coach, the United States, who was never had a chance to be the United States coach, and of course said he was going to be singing the Canadian national anthem, became again. Showed the difference between his style and the old style of Greg Berhalter. Of course, Berhalter was not coaching at that time and was not coaching the last 2 games, but there's still remnants of his coaching.
Right, Mikey Varas was basically 2.0 or disciple that was basically following his orders.
And the United States just didn't play well against Canada. They played a little better against New Zealand. You had Captain America, Christian Pulisic, coming off the bench on Tuesday. He scored a goal, giving the United States energy. And after the United States had really not played very well against New Zealand, but then the All Blacks came back, and then the Kiwis came back and tied the game and I almost had a chance to win it, to be honest with you, Stephen. I mean, that's how close it was late. So the United States, I feel, hopefully with Pochettino coming in, will play a much better style. He's more open. He seems to be like a guy who can at least bring a much better attitude, and everyone's going to have to audition for their job. Everyone is going to have to audition for their job. Like I said beforehand, he's not going to be holding to the favoritism that Greg Walter had. So everyone's going to have to audition. Everyone's going to have to come in. I don't think anybody's safe. Not even Christian Pulisic, not even Balogun, not even any of the stars that are coming in. Giorena, no one's safe. And if he has to clean house, let him. Pochettino is a guy who will come in, and as you mentioned, I wish that he had another chance to continue coaching Chelsea. But you know what? If he has a chance to coach the United States team, and we have a very short time to get ready for the World Cup, I don't think they're going to get. I mean, if he can get them to the knockout round, I'll be quite happy. And, my expectations for this team are low right now because based on what Greg Walter has done. But if Pochettino can come in and get the job done and raise the quality of this team, get everybody together, get everybody on the same page, sell everybody what he's selling because he's a very good coach. Chelsea started off slow last year, and then they got much better to the point where they got a Europa, not Europa League, but the European Conference tournament berth. He got them there, and this is a team that for me wasn't. I thought was not going to be getting up to as far as they did. They got the job done, and I was optimistic that Pochettino would stay, but it didn't happen. Chelsea went in a different direction, which is fine, but it's the United States gained, and I think that. Like I said, if the United States can get to the knockout round and get to the round of 16, which has been the last few, which has happened, not the last World Cup, but actually it was the last World Cup, but the last few times, I'll be quite happy based on what he has to work with right now.
Yeah, as you can see there, the Pulisic and a bunch of his teammates were in attendance last Thursday night when the Chiefs and the Ravens kicked off, the NFL season, and also they had to play. They played Canada in Kansas City in a very, very empty, nearly empty, really lifeless stadium. It's kind of ironic they had to pick that stadium in the same city where U.S. crashed out a Copa. Which led to the dismissal of Greg Berhalter eventually. I have been really, really angry with the U.S. soccer. Look, I'm not going to criticize players who are certainly, maybe asked to come watch the game for the good PR and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that the U.S. soccer, especially on the men's side, are full of players who are unfortunately acting like an entitled prima donnas or Hollywood stars, too many of them, in my opinion. Starting with Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, a guy who has a hard time staying in shape, Tyler Adams, who's a captain, another guy who unfortunately can't stay healthy even if his life depended upon. Matt Turner, who is a terrible goalkeeper who can block shots, but that's all he can do pretty much. If he can't stop shots, then he's nothing more than maybe a glorified third goalkeeper on a good national team and guy who is having a hard time playing regularly in English Premier League right now. And a host of others, players who are just not up to par right now. They're all struggling, not just on the national team level, but even on the European side. A lot of the guys are not really, not up to par. A lot of them, either they're, sitting on the bench, either hurt or they're not even getting regular playing time at all, and that's a massive problem. And even the guy who's supposedly the best player that we just witnessed there, Christian Pulisic, he in this camp really exposed himself as nothing more than a crybaby, with a terrible body language. Talking about this international break game between Canada and New Zealand, where his body language just so bad. He looked like he was very whiny and just wanted to cry and look disinterested out there. And Pulisic kind of reinforces a dude that has a terrible attitude, and one of the best players on the US soccer team here, if not the best, and probably one of the best that the US has produced so far. But even the best player doesn't means having have a strong leadership. And I'm going to play a clip on what I mean by that. And this is what he spoke shortly, I think, after the Canadian game. And Ken, let me know what you think. I'm going to play it just for just 1 second. I apologize here. Here we go.
Yeah, big news for the program, of course.
I can't really hear that. You like to bring that volume up a little bit.
Okay, I apologize. Actually, this is as loud as I can go.
Okay. Well,
Okay, so I'm going to stop this. This is basically what he says. A new winning mentality, a culture within the team. It's going to flip a switch for a lot of the guys. Okay, so, and then here's another quote. There are a lot of things that needs change. Just the mentality and the culture of the group. We have the quality. I know hopefully that's the first thing he wants to change. Now, here's a problem that I have with this quote here, Ken. We wasted 6 years almost of Greg Berhalter and his idiocy and incompetency. Many of these players actually quoted and said they would run through the wall and support Greg Berhalter. Now that he's fired, they're doing a complete 180 and then acting like, in my opinion, they're trying to, ask Pochettino to kind of save themselves. Why aren't these players don't have the mentality to, do it for themselves? What were they doing all these years, in my opinion? These guys are going to have to pull their weight too, in my opinion. This is the, to me, this is, this same guy that Weston McKennie, Tim Weah, and Tyler Adams, and so-called a leadership council enable Berhalter and vice versa. The complacency and the entitlement attitude that has permeated this national team for 6 years under Berhalter. And if he's trying to deflect and blame it and put it on Pochettino to do the miracles, then I think he is completely wrong, in my opinion.
Well, I really need to hear the quote in context. I didn't really see what he said, so I can't really make a judgment on that, Steven. So I'm just going to have to defer to you on that one. But I will think that I'd like to think that the team is willing for a fresh start. And as I mentioned, if they have to volunteer, if they have to all audition, and some of the players that are on the team now, like a Weston McKennie, like some of the players like a Balogun, and if he has to cut them to prove a point, let that happen, Stephen. So I would like to think that Pochettino is going to make a team that is going to reflect his personality. And the reason why that he worked well with Chelsea is because he didn't play favorites. He said, look, if you don't want to play for me, get out. And it took a while for the culture to change. It took basically a season for some really bad habits at Chelsea to change, for them to finally get from the bottom. They were in the bottom tier. They were in the bottom 10, and they finally finished in the top 10 to get a European spot for a chance to play for a tournament. Granted, it wasn't the Europa League. Granted, it wasn't Champions League. They had a chance for the Europa League, but Manchester United, they're are horrible rivals. The most corrupt team in the history of soccer, of club team. I mean, I don't get me started on Manchester United, Stephen. You better stop me now because I might say something bad. But let's put it this way: Manchester United, I'll say that, give them credit. They earned the spot to get to the Europa League and took Chelsea's spot. But Chelsea fought hard after really what was looking like a hopeless season in the bottom 10. They finally got up to the top tier and got to the top flight soccer. So if it takes that, and this team and this United States team is going to learn fast how Pochettino, his style is going to be, because like I mentioned, he's not going to play favorites. He's going to say, look, I'm going to assess you. I'm going to be fair to you. But at the same time, if you don't play to your potential, you're out. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what the name on the back of your jersey is. I don't care how long you've been with the team. I don't care how great you've been treated by Greg Berhalter. That stops now. And if Pochettino can do that and change the culture in there and can get the job done and get this team playing hard and stop the ridiculousness and stop the laziness that we've seen over the last year, if he can get, if he gets some hardware with CONCACAF, like in the Nations League, or, get them playing very well in the next couple of seasons, they'll see that they will reap the benefits of that and be ready, because they're also got to, and then not only that, Pochettino believes in conditioning. He really believes he's going to play them hard. And if they're not ready for that, they got to get ready right now, because let me tell you that the Chelsea players under Pochettino were one of the best conditioned at the end of the season, and they're going to learn very hard how hard he's going to run them, because if they think that he's going to run a country club and a club med, they've got something else coming.
You said it very, very well, Ken. I know conditioning is a very, very important part, and he really was quoted as saying the year that the Tottenham Hotspur, where he led them to, I think, a second place in a Champions League final. He was quoted as saying there were several players on the Tottenham squad that he despised because of their lack of focus and fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I mentioned, you have Weston McKennie, who looked like a linebacker out there playing, with his weights completely ballooned during Copa. And this is what I meant by complacency, the entitlement. The guys like that who are out of shape and somehow playing an important role in this national team and its fixture. And then the day that they lost to Panama in the second game, Weston McKennie was seen going to hookah bar in Atlanta after the game, late hours. Look, I'm not going to criticize what the players will do off the field. Whatever they want to do, that's their responsibility, and that comes with the territory and responsibility. But if this is Pochettino's team, that's something like that should never, ever happen. If players even care about conditioning and winning games.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of guys who are, again, injured, like Gio Reyna, unfortunately, injured again, is not going to be playing anytime soon for Dortmund, where he unfortunately is a fixture on the bench now, firmly. And there are a lot of guys who are, who doesn't get a lot of quality minutes in their respective clubs over in Europe. That's why you have starters who are, playing a lot of minutes, but the backups and depth pieces are not good right now. The quality drops off significantly. I don't know if it's because of the conditioning or because of the way they were trained to play under Berhalter that needs to flush out and get out of their system. Again, this is a huge, huge moment now for U.S. soccer now. Pochettino takes over. There are going to be obviously some favorites for Pochettino, and there are a lot of guys who have to really, really show Pochettino how much they're committed. And if Christian Pulisic said that they're looking to reset and they're looking for a new leadership and everything, I get it. But I'll say this again: the players themselves have to look deep in their mirror every day now. And then they have to develop that killer and winning mentality, because there is nothing more exciting and more honorable than playing for your own country. That's one thing. And when you're playing for your own country in less than 2 years in a World Cup that is being held in your own country, and if you have a hard time motivating yourself and you need somebody to kick you in the ass, then that player does not deserve to be wearing that uniform. And we're going to find out very, very soon, Ken, that, Pochettino, while he still has the grace period of us fans, he's going to have to really put his foot down and really change the culture in a hurry. So I'm very, very excited about it. I'm finally thankful that the US Soceer Federation got the guy. I know there were conflicting reports out there that they were reaching out to Jurgen Klopp, who left Liverpool just last season, but decided to stick to his sabbatical. And it was unfortunate that they couldn't get Klopp, but I appreciate the US Soccer for once aiming very, very high. And I don't want to say that Pochettino was like some sort of a consolation prize, which is not the case, because, I think Pochettino is one of the great managers out there in international soccer, and that it was a stroke of luck and genius that, he was available, and he was also nice enough to take this job, even though, it comes with the challenges, and certainly getting paid $6 million a year, certainly, makes you to accept anything, I guess. But I'm very, very excited. I really look forward to how Pochettino can influence and blend in his style, and how much of a change we're going to see with the United States men's national team moving forward.
Yeah, and United States has now gotten two managers from Chelsea, Emma Hayes, who has immediately reaped benefits for the women's team. And of course, they immediately got hardware with the Olympics. And I think that after the disaster in Australia with the Women's World Cup a couple of years ago, now we have a great chance for actually in 2023. Now we have a great chance. I think people were not optimistic after the World Cup for the United States for the Olympic campaign. But Emma Hayes, she had to wait. We had to wait for her campaign with Chelsea to end, and she came in and immediately reaped benefits. She immediately had to do what she immediately had them play a more open style. And I think that what we're going to have to see is Pochettino's going to have to. It's going to take a while for Pochettino. The United States had the talent. The women had the talent. And Emma Hayes saw and she's a great evaluator of that. We saw what the great things she did at Chelsea in the Women's Super League, winning so many titles, and won a title on her way out. So she was able to say, "Hey, look, I've got young bucks and young Mustangs. You let them run. You don't restrict them by using a donkey with a whip." I'll use the word by Jerry Glanville. You let them run. You let them run, you let them run, and you let them run. And that's what helped the United States win the Olympic gold medal. Pochettino's going to have to see what he has, and hopefully he'll be able to find the right combination. It's going to take a little bit longer, but hopefully within 2 years, Stephen, we'll see a much better United States team, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I think the first game for Pochettino debut will be in Mexico, down in Mexico, where U.S. has not had a lot of success down in south of the border. I think it's a great opportunity if U.S. can play a much better free-flowing, soccer in transition, which I hope that they can at least, look competent even against the Mexico team that they have had a rather easy time beating in recent years, and really doesn't have the same level of, interest or same level of cachet anymore these days. It will be very, very interesting. Hopefully U.S. and Mexico will put up a better fight, knowing that, their reputation on the international stage is on the line with the World Cup just around the corner. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the NFL. Finally, we saw week 1. And Ken, I got to tell you, last week we saw a great game between Baltimore and Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And it came down to the very last play where Baltimore, scored a touchdown on the final with the 0 on the clock. But unfortunately, tight end Isaiah likely had a foot on that white line on the end zone.
That's how
that
close
was
that
was like literally a game of inches. And yeah, I was stunned when it happened. I was even more stunned that the game was overturned because of his foot was on the line. And Chiefs squeaked by, thankfully. It was interesting because the Ravens, I was really questioning their game plan the entire game, where I think Lamar Jackson was carrying the ball 12 times. Way too much, taking unnecessary hits. And, those are the types of, things that, because of, Lamar Jackson's stature. And over time, it does kind of build up. Even a big guy like Cam Newton, once he took way too many hits, even as a 6'5", 240 massive quarterback of his stature, you cannot withstand those hits over time. And I was really, really flabbergasted. And Baltimore.
You signed Derrick Henry for a reason to take the load off of him. But Lamar Jackson, he's running the offense right now. You can't let Lamar. Sometimes you have to save some players from themselves, Steven. You got to let you have Derrick Henry there. Give him the ball. Give him the ball. He is a workhorse. Let him run. Give him say, if you're John Harbaugh, just say, Derrick, get in there. Just take the ball from Lamar to save himself, because, it was just so funny because the first drive, Derrick Henry was showcased. I think he carried the ball like 8 times. And then after that, we hardly saw him. So if you're going to sign Derrick Henry, you better use him. And Lamar Jackson just carried the ball way too much. But it happened. And but what's going to be funny is that I know it's early, but that's a game that could decide who has the home field advantage in the AFC Championship. We saw Baltimore get the AFC Championship last year, but Kansas City, if they can, if they want to three-peat, that's a type of quality win, Steven, that helps you get the AFC Championship and lets the AFC playoffs run through your stadium and Arrowhead Stadium. So, I know it's early, but still, that's a statement win for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially early, and that can propel you in a great season. And that was a fun game to watch. I mean, NBC, which carried that game, and also Peacock, which had the Brazil game between Philadelphia and Green Bay, and then Los Angeles Rams and Detroit. All of those games came down to the wire. I mean, you had the Brazil game, which came down to which was a 5-point game with Green Bay, and with Philadelphia beating Green Bay. And unfortunately, Jordan Love got hurt in the last drive. And then, of course, Detroit and Los Angeles, the Rams, they went to overtime. So that was great to watch. It was just a fun weekend. Great games from prime time. And like I mentioned, Jordan Love, he's not going to play. He luckily it wasn't his ACL, it was his MCL, but he's not going to. I don't think he's going to play this coming weekend, Steven. And the Packers, it was a good win for the Eagles. Granted, they played in Brazil. Granted, it was on Peacock, but it was a great weekend for viewership in the NFL. 21 million people, an average of that, watched the games. That's without the Peacock game, which got 14 million people to watch. So we were hungry for football, Steven, and we watched it. And I know you were very happy with your Bears, despite the fact that they just couldn't play very well offensively. It was special teams and defense that won them the game. And then, of course, I don't know what to say about my Browns. They just look hopeless. Deshaun Watson was terrible. And now the Browns are trying to get out of his contract now with a new lawsuit that has come out. So we'll see what happens there. But I'll let you talk about your Bears.
Okay, thank you. And I'll let you go a little bit more into the Browns situation as well. So the Bears won, despite, a horrible debut by Caleb Williams. And I got to tell you, watching it, thankfully at my comforts of my own place in the Michigan area, it was not looking good at all. And I thought, I was watching the repeat of last year when the Bears got smoked by the Green Bay Packers on national television. And, it wasn't looking very, very good at all. Caleb was skittish, nervous, largely due to terrible interior offensive line protection. The center Coleman Sheldon was on his back as much as, a lot, when you're going up against, all pro like Jeffrey Simmons. And then a rookie, Tavondre Sweat, who really looked very, very good for a guy who's about 350 or 360. He was very, very nimble. And then you have a guy, Nate Davis, who barely practiced at all this summer, and and the coaching staff was so fed up with him that they were even thinking about benching him, and he played very, very poorly. That he actually got taken out of the game and was replaced by Ryan Bates, and now it's basically between Davis and Bates on a week-to-week basis, trying to determine who had the best practice and who looked good, which is not a good sign for an offensive line, which supposedly looked good. At least, General Manager Ryan Poles was boasting probably the best offensive line that he has put together so far. But it really doesn't say much when you have a guard that has already been, on thin ice and is going to be replaced by another guy who what isn't as super talented by any stretch of the imaginations. And his performance, unfortunately, did not really help change the perception that he is a lazy and he doesn't like to practice. But in spite of all of that, the Bears relied on defense and special teams to win the ball game for them. It's kind of like reminiscent of the Bears team of yesteryears. The closest game I think a lot of people came to mind was a 2006 Arizona Cardinals game in which the Bears came back from 20-point down to win it to 2 defensive touchdowns, and Devin Hester punt return, that the infamous late Dennis Green, God bless him, went off, that massive news conference where Green was so peed off and angry. That game was very much reminiscent of what I witnessed on week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. Now they face a much tougher team in the Houston Texans this Sunday night on NBC once again. Injuries are kind of starting to rack up right now for the Bears. Rome Odunze probably won't play. He's week to week. Keenan Allen did not practice. Hopefully he does practice on a limited basis. Caleb Williams and the offense, they really, really need to pick it up. I didn't see anything that was encouraging in terms of the identity. The run game wasn't working well, and they kind of abandoned it quickly. So hopefully, even going up against C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, I'm not expecting him to outplay C.J., but I just hope that they throw more than 200 yards and play a much better offensive football and, show some growth. I understand the problem with the interior offensive line will always dodge them the rest of the season, but that doesn't mean that the offense cannot improve. And I hope that, Caleb will put up a better number going up against a much tougher opponent in the Houston Texans. All right, Ken, let's talk about your Browns. And, I watched it, of course, for 2 reasons. Of course, mainly, it was the debut of Tom Brady as the color analyst for Fox with Kevin Burkhardt, and I'm gonna, let you get in on that since you covered the media side of it with awful announcing. But I watched the game, and I have to say, Deshaun Watson, I know Cleveland radio stations, 92.3, The Fan, and ESPN Cleveland were just completely all over. The performance of Watson and how bad he looked. And Ken, I know you've been very, very vocal about the Browns getting Watson and paying him all the guaranteed money and everything. But where are you right now on the where Deshaun Watson is, and Is this it? Pretty much, is this over for Watson in Cleveland? Do you think this is it?
Depending on how this goes, Stephen, I really have a feeling that the Browns, Jimmy. I don't know why. First of all, Jimmy Haslam signed him. They gave him a guaranteed money. We all know about Watson's lawsuits with women alleging his bad behavior, like massage parlors and all that stuff. But I really have to say, there was really no one that was really yearning to sign to Deshaun Watson except for the Cleveland Browns. And on Sunday, he just didn't look like he cared. He didn't look like he wanted to be there. He looked like, here's a guy that looked great in Houston, but ever since those lawsuits came out, Stephen, he hasn't been the same. And I don't know what it is. I really don't care. I really don't like him on my team. I've said this before on this show. But I think now the Browns are looking for an excuse to get rid of him. And if the NFL comes down, I think they're going to wait for the NFL to come down to take action on this lawsuit. Because if this lawsuit forces the NFL's hand and suspends Watson, then the Browns can use that as an excuse and say, "Hey, there's the clause. There's the thing we needed. We can cut him." But the problem is that no matter what happens this year and next year, his money, his contract is guaranteed. So it's going to be a hit on the salary cap. So the Browns' hands are pretty much tied. So, but I have a feeling he's not going to be playing much longer. Like I said, he's only in the last couple of seasons, he's played about 12 games. Joe Flacco was the one that led the Browns to the playoff spot last season ironically against Houston, and the Texans beat beat up on the Browns in the wild card. So I don't know, Steven. I would rather see. I would have loved to see Joe Flacco signed again to lead this team. He seemed to have more interest. He seemed to have the players in the locker room. He seemed to have the players' confidence. Deshaun Watson, I don't know what he's doing out there. He just, like I said, he just didn't look disinterested. He didn't care. He just didn't. He just like when he took hits, he just stayed down. So I really don't believe that he's the quarterback of the future for the Browns. Again, the Browns with another bad quarterback choice. Ever since the Browns came back, you go all the way back to Tim Couch. You go to Derek Anderson. They've had Jacoby Brissett. They've had Johnny Manziel. And Deshaun Watson. This follows a whole bunch of slew of bad quarterbacks that they've had. I mean, Derek Anderson was okay. Jacoby Brissett was okay. Joe Flacco was probably one of the few that have that. And of course, you have a player in Baker Mayfield who's doing very, very well right now. And he was supposed to be the quarterback of the future. And I don't understand why the Browns didn't keep him. So I don't know, Steven. This is a situation where the Browns could regress as long as Deshaun Watson is their quarterback. I really don't see them playing well or getting into the playoffs. They really need an infusion. Joe Flacco was a diamond in the rough. He came off of his couch to come in and lead the Browns to the playoffs. I'm not sure what can happen this year because they just don't have that type of quarterback. And Myles Garrett, who is a great defensive player and a guy who wants to win and a guy who wants to do everything he can for this franchise. I don't know what's going to happen out there because they're right now that offense is devoid of talent. I don't know what's going to happen out there, Steven. I really don't. And, I don't have much confidence, just like I didn't have much confidence in Chelsea in the first half of last season in the English Premier League. I don't have much confidence right now in the Cleveland Browns. I mean, if they go 0-17 this season and trying to get a draft pick, that's fine. But, with the way the Browns front office has been, I'm sure they'll screw that up too. So I really have no confidence in this team right now.
Yeah, you guys faced the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 2. Jaguars coming off a very tough loss against the Miami Dolphins, where they were actually leading the game,
Yep,
and
should have
then
won the game. Should have won
yeah,
that
I know. The Travis Etienne's fumble
in the end
into
zone.
the end zone, that really changed the complexity of the ball game. And by the way, we'll get to that game in a little bit, not just for the score, but also what happened off the field as well.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's move on to the Monday night game. San Francisco against the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers back in town. He's from the Bay Area, as we all know. Played at Cal. Was snubbed by the 49ers back in 2005 NFL draft. Fell all the way to the Green Bay Packers, and he had a phenomenal career with the Packers. And so far, with the Jets, it's been a lot of distraction that mostly that has been caused by himself. And Ken, I got to tell you, even with the 49ers without Christian McCaffrey, I was kind of very much impressed with the way the 49ers handled their business. The Jets, I don't know. I know a lot of people are calling Jets the sexy team, and some even picking them to win the division, even make the playoffs and everything. But I just didn't see that with the way the Jets played. Aaron Rodgers did not look good Monday night. And what do you make of that game from both the 49ers and the Jets perspective?
I don't think the Jets are that bad, although I don't think they're going to win the division. I picked them. To be honest, I picked them third, as you remember last week. And I don't think they're going to. I think they'll be behind Buffalo and Miami in the division. I think they'll get only 6 wins. The San Francisco 49ers just ran roughshod right over that defense. They picked apart that defense with the running game that they had. They ran left, they ran right, they ran up the middle. That Jets defense had no answer for them. And no matter what, it's the best defense for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. You keep him off the field, you keep running up, and you run up and down the field. You keep the time of possession, and then you also score touchdowns. And it just seems the Jets had no answer for the 49ers on Monday night. So, and granted, Rodgers, of course, wanted to play longer than he did in 4 plays last year before he got hurt. Tore his Achilles in MetLife Stadium last year in the first game against Buffalo. But I really think, to be honest with you, Stephen, the Jets are just one of those franchises that are snake bitten. I don't think they're going to play well this season, and if they do, it'll be a surprise to me. But I don't think they're that pick for a Super Bowl. I don't think they're a pick for the AFC Championship. That AFC East division is loaded with Miami and Buffalo. The Patriots, of course, they had a surprise win over Cincinnati this past week. And who knows how they're going to do this season with a new coach in Gerard Mayo. But I have to be honest with you that I don't think the Jets are going to be going anywhere. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is, the Jets are stuck with him because they gave him this big contract, and we'll see what happens with them because there's a lot of things that in that Jets team right now that's sorely lacking. And I don't see them, of course it's just week 1. Anything can happen, but I just really don't feel that they're going to be a team that's going to be challenging the top tier of that division.
Yeah, I agree. I was not really impressed with the Jets. There was a significantly lack of pass rush, which is kind of shocking, given that Robert Saleh, the head coach, is the defensive coordinator, and they have invested a lot of money on that side of the ball. I don't know if Hassan Reddick's holdout has been a problem. I think Jets really screwed themselves up for acquiring him. And God forbid, I give Hassan Reddick at least credit for sticking to the principle of sitting out until he gets his contract extended or whatever. The Jets failed to do that, which is obviously such a New York Jets thing to do. So we'll see if there's going to be some movement or some sort of an agreement between two sides. If the Jets can't generate enough rush they're going to be in a lot of trouble, even though they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball there. Now, kind of looking at the week 2 schedule, Ken, the scheduling wise, you have the 49ers going to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had a surprising win over hapless New York Giants. Meanwhile, the Giants and the Commanders, they face each other in a must-win game already. The Chargers, Jim Harbaugh's return to the NFL was a very successful one against the division rival Las Vegas Raiders. They go to Carolina to play the Panthers, which is already a team that looks like it's the season is already over by now. You have the Colts going to the Packers. Well, very, very curious. The Colts gave the Texans a run for their money. Packers, of course, it's a Malik Willis's show now since they acquired him from the Tennessee Titans during preseason. It's going to be very, very curious to see just what kind of a miracle or not miracle that the Packers can work with Malik Willis under Matt LaFleur. That's going to be a very interesting, game to keep an eye out on. Nobody wants to start at 0-2 either.
No,
Your Browns go to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. This is a must-win for both teams as well, coming off a very, very heartbreaking loss, especially the Jaguars. The Lions, the NFC favorites by many to go to Super Bowl this year. It's a playoff rematch, but this time they go to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. This is one of the only few times that they're going to be playing outdoors. Very curious to see how the Lions do outdoors, especially in a hot Tampa, Florida weather down there. I don't know the humidity or if there's going to be rain and all that stuff, but very curious to see if the Lions can function well outdoors in the heat, And then you have the Bengals and the Chiefs, These two teams have faced each other in the playoffs several times the last few years, and most noticeably, if you remember, the Bengals actually beat the Chiefs in an upset in the AFC Championships 2 years ago. And now they face each other. The Bengals are struggling. Joe Burrow looks like he's not healthy. Jamar Chase is dealing with the contract dispute that's hanging over their head right now. It's if the Bengals lose, God forbid, against the Chiefs on the road, this team could crumble very, very quickly. So this is a must, a game that the Bengals definitely have to make sure that they stay in order to remain viable for the rest of the year.
I really think, Stephen, that Cincinnati with the surprise loss to the Patriots in week 1. Here's a team that just looked lifeless. The Patriots, and I have to give them praise. Gerard Mayo had them really prepared. Took a page from Belichick and just coming in and controlling the ball and using Jacoby Brissett. And I really feel that the Patriots, they could surprise some people this year. We'll see. But Cincinnati just, it seemed as if they came into the game thinking, all right, it's the Patriots. We know that they're not the Patriots of old. This should be an easy W for us.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have a good attitude. And then the Patriots punched them in the mouth, which surprised them, and they never got off the canvas. So Cincinnati's I know they'll play better in Kansas City. Like you said, Joe Burrow is not Joe Burrow right now. So we'll see what happens with them. But also, too, you've got also your Bears are going to be on Sunday Night Football taking on the Houston Texans. We'll see how Caleb Williams does, because here's a guy we have to think that maybe week 1 was an aberration, but he can't play like he did in week 1 and hoping that the defense bails him out. The Bears were very, very fortunate that their defense and special teams picked them up to get the victory. You can't depend on that every week. So, and the Texans, they're coming in too with a young quarterback, and they're coming in flying high after a great playoff win last year. So we'll see how they do, Stephen. And it's going to be fun to watch that on Sunday night. And then Monday night, you've got Atlanta and Philadelphia. The Eagles always seem to be playing in prime time. And we'll see that with the big win coming off the big win in Brazil last week, how they come in a week afterwards playing. They get an extra few days of rest coming in after playing in Brazil. They get to play the Monday night game. So we'll see if they can play. In Atlanta, surprisingly, they just, I don't know. They just didn't have it this last week. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see how they fare against Philadelphia. But your Bears have got to show something, Stephen. Caleb Williams has got to play a lot better. He just can't. He kind of looks scared. He almost looks scared out there, Stephen, at least to me.
No, I agree. He even admitted he was a little bit playing fast, and I think that came with the nerves, which kind of was surprising because he said he didn't. He wasn't nervous at all or anything like that. So, we'll be very, very. I'll be interested to see what kind of a improvement he shows. If the Bears are down to, like, say, DJ Moore as the only legit wide receiver, that might be a little tough. They have to get more, tight ends. Cole Kmet, who barely played much in week 1, they have to get involved in him as well. The running game, as I said earlier, they have to do a better job establishing the run to make the play action, more effective. They have to make Caleb move around in the pocket, make sure that he gets some early quick throws, get him in the rhythm. That's something that the Bears have to do. They don't have a lot of good history when it comes to developing quarterbacks. They've already failed with Mitchell Trubisky. They failed with Justin Fields, and they cannot absolutely fail Caleb Williams, in his rookie year. This game, it's a step up. I want to see Caleb do well, but he has to play better. There is no question about that at all. So, that's our rundown of the week 2 of the NFL. And, we look forward to discussing this next week to kind of go through some rundowns of the games that we discussed. And, next week, hopefully at this time or whenever, you and I are available, Ken. So, all right, let's kind of go on a few things before we wrap this show up. We were talking about the Dolphins-Jacksonville game, and unfortunately, the game itself was kind of overshadowed just before the game. Tyreek Hill got put on handcuffs before, the Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars played. I won't play the video because obviously I think a lot of people will have to see it for themselves. Can give me your own assessment of the incident and how it played out, and what do you truly feel about this latest incident involving the police? I wouldn't say brutality, but the trouble involving police law and the law enforcement and their usage of power.
Well, it was the situation, as you mentioned, happened right before the game. Tyreek Hill was trying to get to the stadium, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, and kind of similar to Scotty Scheffler, he came in speeding, and he finally got stopped. Now, Tyreek Hill did an interview. He's been on CNN, and he was also on with Taylor Rooks before tonight's Thursday night game on Amazon. He talked with Taylor Rooks, and he said that yes, he could have behaved better. Yes, he probably shouldn't have closed his window, which incited the cop to open the door and pull him out. But then when the cop decided to put handcuffs and then another cop put a knee on his back, that's where the situation got escalated. Miami-Dade police has not had a very good reputation. They've had situations with the Black community before and the Hispanic community. And this doesn't help their reputation at all, Stephen. A cop has already been put on administrative leave. If you've seen the video, it doesn't look good for the Miami-Dade police, to be honest with you. Tyreek Hill, yes, he shouldn't have closed his window, but he said he did that because he didn't want fans to see, oh, Tyreek Hill is arrested. What's going on? I kind of feel that, but also at the same time, he said he should have de-escalated the situation. He could have behaved a little bit better. He said after the game, What if he wasn't Tyreek Hill? What if he was just a regular citizen? What would have happened? Two players came over to try to help out Tyreek Hill, and Calais Campbell, ironically, the Walter Payton Man of the Year, was also mistreated by the police as well.
Yeah, they put cuffs on him too.
Yeah, and I don't understand that at all. So, Miami-Dade doesn't look very good here. Tyreek Hill, he said he could have behaved better. He could have done a little bit better to de-escalate the situation, but there's still no excuse to pull an innocent man who has been speeding, to pull him out and put him in handcuffs and put a knee on his back, especially what we've seen with the mistreatment of blacks by police since the George Floyd incident, who had a knee on his neck. So I it's just shocking that police haven't learned. I have a feeling that Miami-Dade, with the fact is that Tyreek Hill was a high profile and is a high profile personality. I think it was fortunate the fact that I think the Miami police realized that they had someone who was in the Miami Dolphins, and they quickly let him go. But had he been, like you mentioned, just a Joe citizen, what would have happened? Would that have escalated? Would have gotten worse? So I think there's going to be, and the Miami Dolphins came out with a statement denouncing the police behavior. I really think that there's going to be, and Drew Rosenhaus, who is Tyreek Hill's agent, says there's going to be a lawsuit coming. I don't doubt that at all. So I have to wait. As I have to say, Stephen, and I know we're coming up on our time here, but I just wanted to say that Miami-Dade has got to look. The police department's got to look themselves in the face, and they got to use that as a training video about how not to escalate a situation. Especially, and it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a famous athlete. Doesn't matter if it's a resident. Doesn't matter if someone in a poor community. You just don't treat people that way.
No, absolutely. There are no excuses for this type of behavior from the cops, and even Tyreek, Hill himself. He's had a lot of stuff off the field historically. One of the reasons why he got kicked out of Oklahoma State was because of the domestic violence stuff that forced him to get kicked out of Oklahoma State. And he has also been involved in the stuff about alimonies and child being born out of wedlock, and him wanting to be a porn star once his playing days are over and all that kind of crazy stuff. There's obviously he's been in the news for unfortunately wrong reasons too, and at least Tyreek, certainly should have, definitely watched the speeding, and his behavior was not unacceptable, and he even openly admitted to that too himself. So I hope this is, maybe, I don't want to say a come to Jesus moment for Hill and everybody involved in it, but I hope that Hill, at least he said that he wants to work to change the behaviors and the work with the police side. Obviously, the cop who was put on administrative leave, Danny Torres, and his representatives wanted to reach out to Hill directly and apologize. Hill said no, which I get it. I understand. And probably there's no need to pander to a cop that, almost, beat you senselessly if it wasn't for Tyreek Hill, unfortunately. So, we'll see. Hopefully this is a learning moment for all of us involved, and especially for Tyreek, considering the amount of talent that he has. And it would have been a damn shame if he had been, suffered a serious injury because an overjealous cop wanted to exercise his own power, if you will, Ken.
Yeah, exactly. And Hill has said that he will himself when he retires, says he would like to become a cop himself. So he says he would like to work with Miami-Dade down the line. I think that's a great thing. He wants to have an open dialogue with them, but we'll see what happens with this. If Drew Rosenhaus if this doesn't happen with a lawsuit or some type of litigation, but I think it's great that Hill himself has said that at least he said, look, I do want to have an open dialogue. I do want to hope this opens up a discussion. And I hope it leads to some better behavior by the Miami-Dade Police Department and by all police departments in general.
Absolutely. Well, we have come to an hour, and 222 people coming in and joining us tonight. And thank you as always, especially on this Thursday night, where Thursday night football is playing in the homes of many people. So I'm going to go and watch and see the Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Should be a very good game, and it looks to be that way so far.
Well, it's 17-7 Buffalo. Tua Tagovailoa has thrown a couple of interceptions. Very bad decisions. One bounced off one of his receivers and was intercepted. The second one was a really bad decision. But overall, I do think Miami's got to play. If they want to be a top echelon in the AFC East, they have to beat Buffalo. And throwing 2 interceptions in the first half, leading to scores, is not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Tua can improve and see how Mike McDaniel can overcome this. But they're down 7 points. They're down 10 points right now, but they do have the ball, and they're driving at midfield right now in a very humid Miami right now, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, Ken, thank you very much as always. You can follow us on X and our YouTube channel right there, which is also live streaming simultaneously as well as on our X channel as well. For Ken Fang from Awful Announcing, I am Steve. Oh, sorry about that. What was that, Ken?
It's looking very good for a guest that I have been pursuing all summer long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's looking. I can't make an announcement yet, but it's looking very close that we'll be getting. I'm not going to mention this person's name yet because it's not official. But a person who is a person who does a soccer commentary. He is the potential of getting him is very good. So let's just put it that way. I will let you know when that happens, and hopefully we'll get him on the show very sooner than later. But right now we're reaching out to representatives, network representatives. It looks like we may get him. It's not Ian Dark, by the way, people. Don't. We would love to have Ian Dark, but it's not Ian Dark. So let me just say that right now.
Oh, good. I know Ken has had some nice guests, especially doing the Summer Olympics that time. So we look forward to the official announcement of the guests, and and hopefully it will be a very interesting conversation for all of us involved. Again, thank you very much for watching us tonight. And as you can see on the X handle right here, please make sure to follow us on our future show updates and also our YouTube channel. You can see it here moving forward for our past shows. That is also there as well. For Ken Fang, I am Stephen Negishi. Thank you for joining us on the Double A Team podcast live stream, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Good night.